Hi, Internet. Welcome to July's hobby update. I'm going to talk about my interests, things that have held my interest for days on end, channels that I've been watching, shows, movies, series, podcasts, YouTube channels, things like that. So, starting with my analog hobbies, diamond painting has been kind of the forefront. So, I'm working through this one right now. Really pretty. Not my favorite pattern. It's a little too abstract for me, but I like color blocking. It's very relaxing. That'll be done in a couple of days. I've also been doing a lot of cleaning and decluttering. Very light decluttering, mostly cleaning. I don't really want to throw out too much stuff because I don't want to replace anything. But just making the space feel nice and tidy, even if it's going to be tidy for just a couple of hours. Like, let's say I wake up in the morning and I will make my bed even though I know I might come back for a nap a couple hours later or whatever, like on a slow weekend. So, making things look presentable and yeah, tidying up so that way it's easier to clean. I feel like the less you have, the easier it is to maintain the space. So, I've been doing a lot of that. I've also been doing crossword puzzles, but that's pretty much for analog activities. And then moving into, I guess, middle ground. Yeah, virtual reality. So I've been playing a lot of virtual reality. I've been playing Beat Saber, Walkabout, Mini Golf, and 11 table tennis. 11 table tennis is one of the best games I have played using my VR headset. I've been playing that game for maybe 5 years. It gets my heart rate up. It's really fun. It has an AI that you can play against. It's always had a computer, but they've changed the name to AI over the years, I feel like, if I remember correctly, and you can choose the difficulty. I used to play with like actual opponents, like real humans, but they're not always consistent and sometimes they'll just disconnect. So I feel like playing against AI, it's not the worst thing. So I'll have music playing in the background and I will play until this is gross, but until I'm so sweaty that the headset can't stay on. Like I will play it until that point. And it's been helping me get my steps in. I'm not a huge summer person. I don't really enjoy the heat. So I haven't really been going out much or to the gym. So I've been doing a lot of exercise at home and my Fitbit keeps me accountable. So yeah, tracking my my activity levels throughout the day. And with my VR headset, I've found a loophole. So usually when I am playing like an intense game, the headset tends to fog up and I can't see anything. So I've been playing right in front of the air conditioner, so I have cold air blowing on me at all times, and that's how I'm able to play VR for hours at a time. So I've been doing a lot of that. And what else? Okay, now I'm going to move into interests. So, there's this channel, the person who runs it, I believe his name is Jesse Michaels. He does like podcasts. I think he has maybe 500,000 subscribers. I've been watching him for a long time, but I've kind of tapered off because a lot of it feels like sensationalist, and I don't really like when YouTube channels like try to dramatize things and make things more than what they are or give theories that just don't really make sense. Like I'm all for disclosure, but some of it just doesn't seem real to me. Okay, with that being said, there there were a couple of guests on his channel recently, maybe I want to say like the beginning of June. And I only stumbled upon, again, I unsubscribed from Jesse Michaels a while ago because, again, the sensationalism, I don't really, um, I don't know. I just feel like there's not a lot of evidence to prove some of the things that some of the guests say, and that kind of bothers me. But it's also like intriguing. But I've just backed off recently, and I was scrolling through TikTok, and I don't know how or why TikTok showed me this video, but it was a clip of one of the guests talking about going to visit a friend somewhere, and he walked into the woods and he saw this like tall. Oh, I know how I came across this. Okay, so there was a viral picture going around of Donald Trump meeting with these um like tall white beings with like long blonde hair, and like their skin was kind of pale, and they had like these red suits. I don't know if the picture was AI generated, I don't know, but it was posted and then deleted. I think it was posted by the president, but I could be wrong. But it went viral and it showed up on TikTok, and I was like, what the heck is this? And I'm like, okay, I'm curious about this image. So I searched it on the TikTok app, and I think that's how I came across the clip from the Jesse Michaels podcast channel. So this man, I forgot his name, but he was wearing a plaid shirt, had like gray hair, like older than middle aged, he looked like. And he was talking about how he was walking into the woods on his friend's property or the forest, whatever. And there was a guy who looked very similar to the picture that I just mentioned. Like tall, like almost like very chiseled face. He said he looked like a male model, and he was tall or whatever, and he wore like a suit, and he telepathically told the guy to walk back. And then he later found out that these beings are actually aliens, and they come to the woods to relax sometimes. And his friend that owns the property confirmed the story with him. He's like, "Oh yeah, those guys come sometimes and they just hang out in the woods." And there's like some kind of base nearby where they visit. Really weird. So I'm like, whoa. And I really enjoy storytelling. Like, if someone is able to tell a story really well, like, I want to hear more. I really like the way some people speak. So I spent like 10 minutes, like, looking for the podcast because there was no information on it in the caption or whatever. So I'm like, oh, that's Jesse Michaels. Let me go to his page. And it took me a while. I found the short, and then I found the full video, and I was just like captivated. It was like a 4 hour video. And when I come across content that's like really intriguing and enjoyable to listen to, I will try to savor it. So I tried to watch it over the span of 2 days, while doing my diamond painting or cleaning or whatever I was doing, laundry, whatever. And I was just hearing these men speak, and some of the things they mentioned were things I haven't heard before. That's another reason I kind of stopped watching Jesse Michaels and a lot of alien like disclosure type channels or like paranormal channels, is because a lot of it is repetitive. Like, I didn't feel like I was learning anything new. And I think this was early June. I recorded my reaction to the trailer for Spielberg's Disclosure Day. And I haven't seen Disclosure Day yet. I kind of heard that it wasn't the best movie. And then there were some people who cried towards the end. And I actually, by accident, stumbled upon the ending. Like, somebody leaked the ending, or like, I don't know if they were recording it at the movie theater or something. I don't know. But somebody leaked like a very short video and posted it on TikTok, and I came across it, and I was like, huh, okay, interesting. And I'm like, okay, I see the ending. I do want to watch the movie, but I don't think I want to spend um $30 plus on movie tickets to see this movie when I can like rent it out somehow or even buy it um, when it does come out on like Amazon Prime or whatever, if it is coming out on Amazon Prime. But, anyways, I was like, you know what? Now that I've seen this clip and I've heard the feedback, both the good and the bad, and some people are saying, hey, you don't get it. This movie's about empathy and it sends a powerful message and it's really good. And then there are other people that are like, this movie would be better if it came out in the 90s, right? Like, we already know so much about like the conspiracies and disclosure stuff. Like, so many people already know and they don't really care. I feel like, yeah, just people don't care. Like, we're in a recession. Like, people are worried about how they're going to pay their bills. I don't think a lot of people are concerned about alien stuff. But I'm a little different because I have been into this topic since I was very young. Like, when I was in middle school, I remember just reading books and books about it, like taking them out from the library. I would go to school and talk about it with people who were not interested in these things. And um, one of the friends would say things like, maybe you're an alien. How do you know this much stuff? And I will never forget the way she said it. And I don't think I'm an alien, for the record, but I've always been interested in this topic. And I do take breaks on and off if I find a topic that's more interesting. Like, there was a period this year where I was really interested in um, physics. Like, I've never taken a physics class before, so I was really into that for a little while this year. But what was I getting at? Right, disclosure. So, disclosure day. I read both sides, like both the negative and the positives. I don't think I'm going to see it in the movies. It seems like a very it's a story. It's not an action movies. I love to watch at the movies. I love seeing it on the big screen. But when it comes to something like this where it's more like philosophical, and I think I'm just going to watch it at home somehow. Um Okay, with that being said, knowing that Spielberg came out with Disclosure, and he obviously also came out with Contact of the Third Kind. I don't remember the exact title of that movie. It came out in, I think, 77. So good. And then he also came out with E.T. Now, I've never seen E.T., and I had it kind of in the back of my head, like maybe I should watch that movie one day, but I wasn't really sure until I stumbled upon the Jesse Michaels podcast. That's 4 hour, basically 4 hours long. And I took my notepad and I just started taking notes. I think I was playing League of Legends while having the podcast in the background. Like, if anyone plays League of Legends, you know that the games can last up to an hour. So I would take breaks from diamond painting and like switch to like game, like actual digital like PC gaming. And anytime someone would say something interesting that I've never heard of, I would write it down. And I took so many notes, like maybe 4 pages of notes about just like different topics. And on top, okay, so my handwriting is horrible here because I was gaming, listening, and taking notes at the same time. So that's a lot of, that's just 1 page. Um, it yeah. So on top, I wrote slow drip disclosure program. Um, oh, so basically, the podcast had two directors, and they worked together on different content. And the reason they were on Jesse Michaels' podcast was because they were talking about slow drip disclosure program. Have somebody approached them at a party and was like, "Hey, I work for the government, and you got some things right in your Alien series and some things wrong. I would like to help you with your next series," or whatever they were coming out with. I forgot the name of the show they made. I think it was called Dark Skies, and I saw DVDs floating around online because I did some research about it after the podcast. But they also, so they were talking about Spielberg. They mentioned him and they mentioned Disclosure Day, and they mentioned a mini series called Taken. Now, I've never seen Taken. And I wrote it down. I'm like, Taken, Spielberg. I wrote down movie because I didn't know it was a 10 episode series. I knew nothing of this. And And I started to think, I'm like, I wonder if Spielberg was also approached. Like, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist and stuff, but Spielberg is good friends with the Obamas. I actually saw him on Michelle Obama's podcast, and they were talking about, I think, Disclosure Day, and they seemed very chummy. And like, I'm like, hey, like Obama has talked about alien stuff for years, like on and off, like very cheeky about it. But so I do believe, I don't know the name of these guys. Um, I do want to look more into them because they have a podcast coming out, or I think it already came out. He mentioned that there's only like one episode, but it's called something about sound frequency. And I wrote down Dark Skies show directors. So I'm going to do some research on that. I'm slowly going through the list of things and scratching them off. So so they were talking about how they didn't want how this how they were contacted by somebody from the government allegedly, and this person told them to stop putting or to change the pilot of the Dark Skies show because it was too similar to what Spielberg was working on, and they were threatened, right? And apparently Taken, the miniseries, is really accurate. Now, Taken, I think it was early 2000s, but the show actually spans generations, like starting from the Roswell crash. I think it was 47 or 44. Anyway, I'm really excited to talk about this. Um, but I was like, okay, let me write this stuff down. And I'm slowly, it's been like maybe a couple of weeks since I watched the show, the 4 hour podcast on Jesse Michaels. But I'm slowly working through this. I want to savor it because this stuff is fresh and interesting to me. So I will look into the podcast at some point. I will look into Dark Skies. Now I want to talk about Taken, the movie, the miniseries Taken. Today is technically Wednesday. I spent Saturday and Sunday watching the entire miniseries, and each episode is like an hour and a half. The cliffhangers, the way it's written, the acting, the storytelling, the every episode was so good. And it felt real. The same way the 77 movie did that Spielberg directed, The Contact of the Third Kind or whatever. It felt so real, and I felt so privileged to be able to watch it. And somebody actually posted the episodes on YouTube. That's how I was able to watch them. And the videos have been up for years on YouTube. So yeah, and I was able to see the comments. The comments on, the the episodes, and people were talking about Disclosure Day, like they were watching the miniseries Taken to prepare for Disclosure Day, which is like kind of funny. So yeah, I watched all 10 episodes, and it's so awesome. If you're into alien stuff, highly recommend. Really, really good storytelling. And yeah, I couldn't stop watching. And I'm not someone who binges on TV shows. I truly don't remember the last time I binged on a TV show. I want to say maybe Daredevil on Netflix, like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I don't know. But when like the superhero movies came out, like I think Jessica Jones and some other stuff, I would literally finish it in like a few days. I would finish every show in like a couple of days. But I haven't just really been binging on any show really because I don't know. I just feel like there's been kind of a slump. I don't know if it was the I know there were some problems during the pandemic with writers, like they weren't getting as many opportunities or they refused to write. I forgot the exact issue with what was happening in Hollywood with writers. But yeah, so I was so hooked on Taken, and just a few hours ago I actually finished. I actually watched E.T., I think for the first time. I don't remember watching it as a kid. And watching it as an adult, like I'm so happy I get to experience this content as an adult because of the stuff that I kind of already heard about or know. And for the record, like when I saw Taken, nothing surprised me. Nothing surprised me. The cover-ups, the storylines, it all seemed very believable based off of like people's testimonies and things like that, people who've worked for the government, abductees, things like that. So I was like, okay, so I guess I'm working backwards. So I saw Taken, and then I saw E.T., which I think came out in 82. So very shortly after Close Encounters, and E.T., according to my research, did like did better than the Star Wars movies at that time. It was like one of the top films like ever created. Doesn't surprise me. And it was an emotional movie. Um I really enjoyed watching it, and I'm starting to notice a trend between all his alien movies or projects, and empathy seems to be the center of it. So this makes me actually look forward to watching Disclosure Day, which I will watch at some point this year. So the reason ET was written on here was because they were talking about Spielberg, and then they mentioned that it was based on a true story. Wild. That apparently there was some autistic kid who found an alien in a barn or something like that, and they were able to communicate. Wild. And knowing what we know now about, I mean, this is like pseudo science, parapsychology stuff, but the telepathy tapes, like when those came out, people were like, oh, maybe they're, nonverbal autistic kids or autistic, whatever people, adults. I'm not sure about the adults thing, but the kids, they they might have senses or abilities that a normal kid might not have. So interesting. I don't completely believe in it. Again, like there's really not much evidence to this stuff. It's mostly testimonies, word of mouth. Like I would even say maybe hearsay. Like I'm still very very skeptical, and I try to look for logic and everything. And I try to be rational. I don't like when the emotional side of my brain triumphs over the logical side of my brain. So I try to stay level headed. And to me, this is like entertainment. Like it's just fun. It's something to do. And this is a topic I've been interested in for so long. And I wrote down paranormal episode. I was going to film a video on this because I do want to research the background of ET, how Spielberg came up with the idea. And I was watching some interviews. So after I saw the ET movie just a couple hours ago, I was just like binging on, not binging, but doing research on the ET movie and why it's important and things like that. And the reason Spielberg made this movie was because his words, he this is it's not an exact quote, but he mentioned something like he wanted to show or to create a movie about the impact of divorce on children. And he mentioned, I mean, it makes sense. So, for almost the entire movie, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's really good. It's a really good movie. Very emotional, very fun, very sweet. And some parts were really funny. Drew Barrymore is just freaking adorable. Anyway, so for most of the movie, you don't see any adult faces besides the moms. Like you only see hands and things like that, and hear voices of the adults, but you don't really see anybody's. It's all about the kids' perspectives. So yeah, it's a really really cute movie, and yeah, I have to say I think I'm becoming like a Spielberg fan. I already saw, I feel like I've seen most of his movies already, but I'm looking at them through a different light now that I'm older, and I've heard a lot of stories that kind of have to do with topics that are in his movies. So, like, for example, one of my favorite movies of all time is Ready Player One, which Spielberg, I believe, directed. And this was before I got into VR. I got into VR during the pandemic, and I saw Ready Player One in like what, 2017. I think it was 2017 or 2018. I don't remember I think it was 2018, like the spring of 2018. And one of the reasons I loved Ready Player One was because I like to play video games, and the way they portrayed like the characters' emotions about these games and how games could be used to escape, you know, feelings, or, let's say you're in a place you don't want to be in. It's a really great way to escape, and that's how I've always felt about video games, especially League of Legends. And I never thought I would be somebody who plays like virtual reality games. I don't even know if headsets were around during that time, or like mass produced headsets. I really don't know. I wasn't really into VR again until 2020. So I'm really, yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of connections between my interests and his movies. I have other things here. Um, let's see. I have a lot of notes about Ronald Reagan. Um, Oh, in the podcast, so I haven't seen every trailer of Disclosure Day. Again, I'm like, I'm like kind of iffy about it. I think I only saw maybe one trailer, and I don't think I was I don't know. I think this one just slipped. This trailer video just slipped. But basically, one of the directors was like, in one of the trailers, like one of the early trailers, because there's different variations. One of the early trailers, somebody, like one of the characters in a movie, says 7 billion people need to know. There are 8 billion people in the world. So, and then the other director in Jesse Michaels' podcast said, it's really bizarre that they've said 7 billion, and then they took it down, and in the movie, apparently in the movie, they say 8 billion people. And they were thinking like maybe it's a Mandela effect. They don't know, but they thought it was really bizarre because in the movie they didn't say 7 billion, and one of the directors was like, well, like hundreds of people go through these trailers before they're released to the public. That trailer was taken down apparently. And then they were talking about, okay, well, why would they say 7 billion in the trailer and then not in the movie, and there's actually 8 billion people on the earth? Why would they say that? Why are there a billion people missing? Like, is there maybe a message, um or some kind of Easter egg to, to tell people, hey, in the future there's going to be a lot less people on the planet? Like, it was really weird. I I really want to research that. I also want to learn about the Majestic 12. So they were actually mentioned in Taken, but I don't think they were called Majestic. I think they were just called the 12 or something like that. Let me see. There's another thing. Oh, so one of the interesting things about Taken, the miniseries by Spielberg, I'm going to keep saying that because I don't want it to be confused with any other Taken series or movie or whatever. But in one of the episodes, there's a fictional character from a storybook that a child was reading or whatever, and that it was like a squirrel or a chipmunk, I don't know, some kind of creature, and it was like animated, and it was actually the alien like abducting the kid. But they took something familiar to the kid, and they encouraged the kid to go on the spaceship or whatever. In Disclosure Day, animals are used. Like, the deer in the trailer. I don't know what other animals, maybe birds. I don't know. Again, I didn't see the movie yet, but it's just really, really interesting. How animals or like something familiar is being used to lure people in or get people comfortable or whatever. Um, they mentioned something about owl synchronicity, which I'm going to look into. There was also the Italian magenta crash, just a bunch of events and things that I haven't heard of. Oh, okay. And then 2 days ago, I saw Contact, which I think came out in '97. It has Jodie Foster in it. That movie was fun. It was fun, but I wasn't so happy with the ending. I wish there was more. I wish she went back to the planet. I forgot the name of the Vega, I think. That's the name of the planet that she went to through the wormholes. But I wish there was more to it. And I also thought it was interesting. And even in that movie, you have a familiar figure coming to you, or like the aliens or whatever the beings on that planet made the environment familiar to make it more comfortable for Jodie Foster's character. I forgot her name. Uh, but like, her late father came to her and to talk to her, but it was actually obviously not her father. And then she was like, there was a beach with palm trees and stuff, which was obviously just like, it's not real, but that's a common theme. And this movie it's not a Spielberg movie. That's my understanding. It's not a Spielberg movie. um I felt like there were a lot of plot holes in that movie. I didn't really completely enjoy, but it was interesting, and I'm glad I got it out of the way, because I feel like if I'm into this topic, like, why not learn more about the media that's come out over the years? And because I've seen so many recent disclosure type movies, like actual documentaries, like the James Fox documentaries, Jeremy Corbell, Bob Lazar stuff, like, why not watch older movies? Because I've seen more recent content and media and projects that were made, I'm able to kind of reference them, or like I'm noticing I'm tying things together when it comes to this topic. Again, I don't know if any of this is real, but it's a really fun topic to explore. Like, as far as I'm concerned, this is sci-fi. This is all sci-fi. This whole disclosure thing, it's just a way for it's a cash grab, right? As far as I'm concerned. Like, that's the reality. People are making money off of this stuff. So, I don't completely believe it, but it's fun to think about. And it's fun to see the different pieces moving. So, oh, and then and I was also gonna save this for a another Pink Paranormal video. I think I have maybe a few months filmed already. So maybe after I see Disclosure Day, I can start doing research and maybe put it into my like paranormal videos. And the reason I lump alien stuff into paranormal stuff is because like nobody really knows. Like, there's no proof. Like, unless you're maybe high up in the government and you know something, I feel like most people don't really know if this stuff is real. It's like religion. Like, there's really not much proof. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is all sci-fi and it's fun. So in the 4 hour podcast, they also well, I don't know if Jesse Michaels brought this up. He really does his research. Jesse Michaels, he knows a lot about a lot. That's one of the things I like about his podcast, is that he's very informed and very well spoken. And in my opinion, a good interviewer. But I just, some of it is just a little too sensational for me. But he said there are books that make predictions. And I don't know how that came up to be, but he mentioned a movie, I'm sorry, a book that came out in 1898, which is like 12 or 13 years before Titanic sunk. And the book was called Wrecks of the Titan. And apparently, according to Jesse Michaels, I'm going to research this. That's why I'm taking notes. That's why I took notes. Apparently, this is so fun to think about. I love weird stuff like this. But apparently, the book described the Titanic and the sinking of the ship, like, very accurately. So I'm going to look into that and see if that's true. Like, I'm not as informed as Jesse Michaels, but I do my research. When I hear something, a statement that someone made, or like they're making a reference to something that I can research, I'm going to research that thing and I'm going to hear what other people have to say about it. And there's another book. I think this also came out in the 1890s, and it was called the Baron Trump Collection. I have no idea what that's about, but I'm going to do research on that. Um, and I have some other notes here, but I'm not going to go into everything. But yeah, so that's the stuff I've been interested in for the month of for July. Um, I'm really looking forward to seeing Disclosure Day. I'm going to wait for it to come out and like, so I can rent it or whatever. Um, if you've watched this video to the end, thanks. Glad to have you here. If you have any suggestions of content you think I can look into that kind of excites me as much as this stuff, like alien stuff. I love that kind of stuff. As you can tell, I'm very passionate. If you have any ideas or you want to give me your opinion, suggestive feedback, whatever, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video.